What's up, guys? Welcome to the August 2022 Tidal Gardens YouTube live show. Hopefully y'all are enjoying your weekend. Things are pretty good here. I stayed up way too late last night, so I'm just now getting into the flow of the day. We've got a pretty good show today. I think that we have a little over 220 some odd corals to show you. And I think that this is going to be the only show for a little while here, because I don't think that we have one planned for the month of September. In September, 3 of the 4 weekends I'm going to be traveling. And on the one that I'm not traveling, I'm having some friends in town that actually are on their way to Virginia, and they wanted me to tag along with them, but I'm like, I don't think I can travel with you guys because I'm already pretty much on the books for I think 15 of the 30 days of the month I'm going to be traveling. So that's not great. So unfortunately, this is going to be the only show for this month, but I think we pick up right away. Looks like on the calendar here, the next show will be October 1st. So that's, even so technically nothing in September, but we are doing a show right after that. Cool. So hope you guys are all doing well. We have to do a Halloween show through all orange coral 20% off. We might. So Harkins, offline, we need to talk about setting up a visit to Las Vegas. I know that like pre-pandemic, we were looking at trying to get out there to see some people in their home aquariums. Something else came up that's in Vegas. So I'd like to sit and chat for a little bit to see like what your availability is about hanging out in Vegas for a little bit. So we will catch up on that later. I'll send you an email. Otherwise, I suppose I should say my hellos and thank yous to the Patreon crowd. So first, I will say thank you to the 3 big corporate sponsors of Tidal Gardens on the YouTubes. So we have Ecotech Marine. We use obviously quite a lot of radion lights here, and we like working with Ecotech. We also have Coral View, and we what do we get from them? We like the skimmers that they carry, the Reef Octopus line. We've messed with a few other of their products, like the Alcatronics and stuff like that, and we are like the biggest fans of Abiz, and they are like, I think, the only distributor for Abiz in North America. So thank you so much to Coral View. And lastly, Polyp Lab. So Phil from Polyp Lab was supposed to come and visit here just like last week, and we're so bummed out because his flight to fly into Cleveland was canceled, and then he got like a second like makeup flight for the next day, and that got canceled, and so we just couldn't make it happen. So hopefully we can get Polyp Lab in studio here at some point. Also, I'm addicted to soft drinks now. That's great. Not really great. Harkins is like, call me. I don't call people. Well, I'll text you. How about that? Okay, so anyway, I got sidetracked for a second there. Have to say the thank yous to the Patreon crowd. So, real quick. Thank you, Big Lord Chi, Brandy Camp, Harkins Aquatics, Jeremy Altman, aka 2 Please, Elaine Martinassi, Alan Jackson, Christopher Martin, Chuck Admire, Ernie Wallace, Greg Zimmerman, Jordan Marty, Keith Singer, Kyle Jameson, Lisa Clow, who I missed because I didn't go to the shows in Dallas, so I missed her. Usually we end up hanging out for at least once a year. Matthew LeBrun, Michael Shelley, Puddle Aquatics, Rebecca Hall, Reef Infidel, Rom Erez, that's a new person, Sean Howie, also another new person, just from this month, Skylar Korn, Sue Hemmons, The Classroom Reef, Thomas Tarrant, Tim Garner, and Trevor Joseph Overbeck. And on the YouTube member side of things, we have Tampa Bay Aquaculture, Herb777, Keith Holland, Justin Harden, and 328 Reef. So thank you all so much, and thank you to the three corporate sponsors, Ecotech, CoralView, and Polyp Lab. All right, so what's up, guys, in chat? What is up? Yes, J Mills, J.A. Mills, Ja Mills. Vegas, yes. I haven't been to Vegas in forever. I mean, pandemic and all. Didn't get to travel as much as I would have liked. In fact, we were supposed to go to Vegas just before the pandemic because there's this big show there for broadcast equipment, all the nice things that make this whole production look and sound nice. It was scheduled. We were all set to go, and then the entire show said no. And I think that show might have like hundreds of thousands of people attend. So yeah, it's a pretty big deal. Liking the banker collar shirt. Yeah. This is like the predatory Wall Street look. Let's see. Like I said, he's the Brad Pitt of corals. I think Brad Pitt has maintained his hair a little bit better than I have. I like Infocom for AV shows. Okay, you know what? I've not heard of Infocom. The one that we were going to attend was NAB, National Association of Broadcasters. Peter T, most dapper reefer out there. I want to see him and Andrew Sandler dress up for the interview. So, funny you mention Andrew Sandler. He is one of the people that I'm scheduled to go see in in September. So the week after MACNA. Also, spoiler, I'm going to MACNA. I'm going to New York to see Andrew Sandler. And yeah, I'm hoping that like my flights don't get canceled. Like flights these days are getting like canceled and delayed left and right. So luckily it's a direct flight to New York. Hopefully I can get there. That'd be nice, right? For all my travels, really. I'd like for there to be as little drama as possible flying. But yeah, I'm going to be going to see him and his tank. I'm actually looking forward to that quite a bit. Yeah. Okay. So we have a minute and 50 seconds. Usually I start these things off early just to do a sound check. And apparently since you guys can hear me okay, I'm going to go ahead and assume that the sound is okay. All right. Cue up the next thing. Oh, so last live show, there was like some technical issues, and I think that I pinned it down to the file, the broadcast file for all the corals was a little bit too large, a little bit too ambitious, and the broadcast software that runs on my main desktop here, like my main desktop is now I think a 5 or 6 year old computer, and it is actually performing worse over time. It's not able to do the stuff that it originally was able to do just fine. It's like it's progressively getting worse. It's like deteriorating. So a lot of like what I do now, I've moved over to my laptop, which is here. So I'm just basically doing like the chat and just some random monitoring of windows and stuff like that over on my main desktop, my workstation. But what's really doing all the heavy lifting now is my laptop, which is substantially more powerful. Hopefully, with a smaller file size and with the laptop being a lot more, just beefy in general, hopefully we don't run into any stupid issues, but we shall see. We shall see. Yeah, NAB is a huge show in Vegas. Yeah, I mean, I remember like just it spans literally miles. So, yeah, big time deal. Yep, hoping for the gremlin-free operation today. So far, so good. It just started. We will see. Yeah, a lot of big things coming up, hopefully. I don't ever like to like count my chickens before they're hatched, but the the calendar is filling up quickly. And it's a very weird feeling for me because I'm such a homebody. I mean, all I do is I stay at home and I order food. That's like the extent of like my life. But there's like so much travel booked coming up, and all of it is like semi work related in some way, shape, or form. So you guys get to experience some of those travels as well. Obviously, I mentioned Andrew Sandler, uh, and shout out to Stories Reef. Rashid's story. He works with Andrew, and he was the one who like set that whole thing up. He was the one who reached out, and I'm like working with all the like, little travel logistics with him on that. So thank you, Rashid. Um, I'm definitely looking forward to going to MACNA. There's some several like manufacturers and stuff like that that I want to to meet in person for the first time because they're all from overseas and don't get to come to the U.S. nearly so often, including Alex from Abiz. Because as much as like I talk about Abiz, I've never actually met Alex, the owner, in person. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Anyhow, what do we have as far as corals? We pretty much have the extended gambit of corals here, and for the most part, the corals are doing well. I think the only latest struggle that we're having coral wise is that one of our systems in this new building is struggling from low pH, and I can't exactly pinpoint why that is, but right now we're running at a pH of about 7.4, which we really should be getting that up to 8.3, 8.4. And if you guys like know about pH, that's not a linear scale, that's logarithmic. So the difference is like tenfold. So going from 7.4 to 8.4, it means that like I'm at 10% of what it should be. And I have a feeling that it's because in the greenhouse, I never have this issue because it's basically a big wind tunnel. It's a 100% swap out of all the air every 5 seconds, probably. Like it just never deals with pH issues. It's always rock solid 8.3 over there. But here in this closed up building, we have 4 air exchangers, but we don't run them super aggressively because it's so hot and humid here that it gets downright swampy if we just crank them. And yeah, so we have them on, so there is air exchange, but it's clearly not enough. So we started to do some dosing of kalkwasser. Now our systems are 2,500 gallons, and when you have that much water volume, um, the amount of calc that we're currently dosing into the systems, it's not that much, but we want to slowly ramp it in there because I don't want to like say, oh my gosh, we need to get this thing into 8.4 now. Let's go. No, we don't do that here. So we're just gonna be patient with it. And so right now, I think that we're up to 10 liters per day, which is what, like 5 gallons maybe? I don't know the liter to gallon conversion off the top of my head. It's not much. And I think that like when we're finally fully ramped up, we might be doing between 15 to 20 gallons per day on that system. So hopefully. Okay, Macy's Daddy, time for a new MacBook Pro. So this MacBook Pro that's currently running the broadcast software is from last year, 2021. So this was one of the new M1 Max MacBook Pros, but this old 5-year-old desktop that I have is an iMac Pro, and it was like the it's an Intel iMac Pro, and it used to be able to do a lot more than it currently is able to now. So I think that as they're optimizing software for the Apple M1 chips, it's kind of leaving the older chip architecture behind. And so even though this computer originally cost like 8 grand or something like that, it is probably a quarter of the power of my laptop now. But I mean, 4 or 5 years of like high productivity, right? So it was. I mean, it's fine. It was worth it. The silent one. Mac is so overpriced. It really is. Like Apple right now is kind of a marketing company more than it is like a design company. Like basically since Steve Jobs died, Apple is not my favoriteest company in the whole wide world, but I'm just very used to it. And as far as like their laptops go, they're really nice. They're really really nice. Desktops, room for improvement, certainly. Tattoo Dancer 91. What is the par range on your Acroporas? About 250 to 300. I just got a par meter and it sits at 300 to 400. That's fine. I have a feeling I might need more color, need more to color them. No, probably not. It's fine. 300 to 400 is in the pocket. Jean Almeida, really enjoy hearing you talk about coral care, etc. Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to do a little bit more of that as well. Lately, we've been doing a lot more content about our tanks in general and just like this building, which I think the next video really should be kind of like a building update, just kind of like a walkthrough, because it's kind of cool. It's looking a lot nicer these days. But I also want to get back into some of the more informational content about certain topics. So, for example, I've been like sluggishly scripting this thing for Kalkwasser. Kalkwasser's been around for like 50 billion years. It's a super old thing, but it's kind of making a resurgence into like the zeitgeist of home hobbyists these days. And it's one of those things that we hadn't done for a very long time, but that we ourselves are jumping back into. And so I wanted to talk about like some of the rationale as to why we've decided to get back into it and some of the benefits it might have and some of the ways you can royally screw up Kalkwasser, like I have personally done many times. So that's another topic that I think that we're going to jump into. As far as individual corals go, we might remake a coral video here or there that's like super old that we might be able to do better. But nothing is striking. Nothing is like, ringing any bells on that one just yet. So it's probably gonna be a building update video plus a Kalkwasser video. Yeah, and obviously like all the different like tanks that I see on the road, which there's gonna be quite a lot of road time this next month, like I mentioned. Peter, any plans to go to the next Interzoo? I wanted to go to this past Interzoo. I got a little bit scared because here's the thing. I have never been to Germany. And from what I understand about Germany, it's like it is probably very easy to get around in. But being like a first time traveler, and I wouldn't be traveling with any group or anything. It's not like Ecotech invited me to go with them or something like that. So it's, I would feel much more comfortable going with like either a company that knows Interzoo or like locals in Germany. But this time around, it was really kind of up in the air whether Interzoo was even going to happen, even until like the last minute. A lot of the vendors were like either planning or not planning to go. There was like a coin flip chance that they weren't going to go because at any time there could have been like COVID restrictions on travel. But anyway, what really stopped me was that I couldn't find a hotel anywhere near this place. Like nowhere in Nuremberg was there available hotels. And what everybody said is, yeah, you don't stay in Nuremberg. That's crazy. Nuremberg is tiny. You have to like stay in some other city, and then you just take the train in. It's fine. I'm like, there's a lot of hair on this deal. This deal is getting hairy. So for somebody that's like never traveled to Germany, it's like I don't want to deal with like all this headache plus the travel to Germany. Which, by the way, that ticket was every bit of $3,000 for economy. That's a lot going on. There's a lot of friction for me to go to Interzoo. So I missed this past one. Maybe in 2 years I'll hit up Interzoo. What I did find interesting about the pictures that I saw from Interzoo was like the fact that every single booth had beer. Like, that's not done in America. Like, you can't do that here. But every single booth, it was like beer after beer after beer. And I heard, this is just like an anecdote. This is like somebody else's story. I probably shouldn't even be telling somebody else's story. But they were like, everybody has like open containers in like the cars, driving away from the show. And one guy was like, uh, is it cool that everybody's drinking and driving? And the local German guy said, no, 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 no. Here, we just call it driving. So I'm like, whoa. Yeah. But anyway, that was interesting. Hillbilly Reefer. A how-to of using calc in modern times would be cool. I agree. I think that there are some really nice benefits to doing it, and now that there's a lot more tech and a lot more familiarity with tech that's accessible, it can be done a lot more safely and in a controlled fashion. So yeah, I think it's a good thing to dive into. Plastipede, your coral and chill video was great. I would love to see more of those types of videos. I think we lost subscribers on that one. I might just break that off into its own channel, just like basically have like a Tidal Gardens radio channel where we just have like that type of content, and just like have like a playlist of like really really chilled out music, so it wouldn't distract from the people that come to this channel for like informational content. I'll just like do like a no, like basically an ad free thing for the music stuff. Macy's Daddy, Germany is mostly English speaking in the metro areas. Yeah, I think when it comes to do that, I'm not as concerned about not being able to speak the language or read the signs. It's really just coming down to like the logistics of being in places that I haven't been before. It's so much more comfortable the second time around, so eventually I just have to break the ice and get in there and see it. But I would like to do it more on rails the first time, and the second time it can be like a lot more adventurous. Like, I like a lot of the trade shows that I've been to already, so I know exactly what to expect. I know where the front desk is. I know how everything works. I know the layout. That's actually quite a lot of fun for me, because there's like just a lot of I guess like the stress and worry about travel just kind of goes away. It's like I know to like get my pass the night before, so I don't have to wait in line, stuff like that. Just the familiarity makes it all a much more easygoing experience. Brad, do you think that you'll have an open house celebration party for those who are local enough, kind of like your own choral show? I would love to see the new building in person. So, Brad, probably not like an open house celebration, but I think that what we're going to start to do, starting on Fridays, is to start taking like a limited number of appointments for the locals just to come in. Um, we have like parking issues, so we're not going to be able to like have just a ton of people just show up and park their cars. Like, not happening. But we are finally, I think, able to have people come in on a Friday, because we had three major issues with having people coming back over. First off, like, COVID, still a thing, it's still a thing. It's always in the background. I don't want to really get it. Fridays now are a little bit slower, which is good, because the second problem was having like the staffing issues of just being able to like give you guys any attention whatsoever, because we're pretty busy here. But Fridays tend to be slower, and our staffing is a little bit more stable, so that's good. And the last thing, what was the last thing? Oh yeah, this place was legitimately unsafe because it was more or less a construction zone. But now that a lot of like the major indoor projects here have wrapped up, and we've been cleaning up the space, getting a lot of like the raw materials out of here. I'm not worried about somebody tripping over to like a stack of 2x4s sitting in the middle of a space, that sort of thing. So it's a lot more retail customer friendly, I guess, and a lot less straight up treacherous. So, yeah. So if you're free on Fridays, Friday might be the time for any of you guys that are local or that are willing to travel. I've got a lot of people the past couple years that have basically been willing to catch a flight to come here. So Fridays. Fridays would be the day. Josh in the box. Hey, my toadstool has been shedding for 2 weeks now, and it's getting some white spots on it. Any suggestions? Thank you. Um, when it comes to a toadstool that's been shedding, 2 weeks is a pretty long time for it to be shedding. What you could probably do is just increase the flow around it. That'll help it slough off a lot of that other material. Also, doing a water change sometimes speeds up the process, I've seen. But those two things should be more than enough. I wouldn't get in there with a toothbrush or anything crazy like that. Um, I guess if you wanted to be a little bit more aggressive than just a little bit more flow and a water change, you could probably give it like a little bit of a blast with a turkey baster, and that might help. So Harkins, he has been here a couple years ago, I think. It is since you were last year, Harkins. It is dramatically nicer. Like it's not even close. It is dramatically improved here. So it's certainly worth a special visit now, I would say. We had a couple of we're having some more and more industry people come and visit, and they've all been pretty impressed by what they've seen. And these guys like know what they're looking at, because they themselves have like really nice places, and they're like, okay, it is shockingly quiet here. Yes, it is. Are you sure the toadstool is not getting attacked if it has white spots? Hmm. When I think of like a toadstool getting attacked, usually it's I mean, unless there's like a non reef safe fish literally biting at it, it's usually like a hitchhiker nudibranch of some kind that feeds on leathers and will kind of keep it closed. So it's not usually like a white spot thing. Yeah, tough to say. Yeah, I mean the other thing is if you have like the ability to put like a night vision camera on it, just to see like at night if there's anything that climbs up on there, like a cheap little infrared security camera that could help. Just because like at night weird stuff happens. Or if you can remove it from the rock, just take it and dip it and see if anything jumps off. That could help too. Toadstool leathers are really good about surviving any kind of like dipping process pretty effectively. So you could do that, but if you can't get it off the rocks or something like that, obviously that's not an option. Okay, so I missed a couple of other comments. Gene, do these cyphastrias do well together? Um, they are not particularly aggressive per se towards one another. We keep them all in the same tank on trays relatively close to each other. Uh, I don't really know if they're going to sting one another or not. We typically don't let them grow together on the same rock. But I don't think it's like a situation with chalices or acropora where like they touch and they instantly kill each other. Let's see. So what have we been up to here? That's interesting. You guys probably saw my like a recent video where we put together our latest big system of tanks. That's gone really nicely. At this point, we're just waiting on the plumber to install the heating and cooling lines for it. I don't even know how necessary the heating and cooling lines are for that particular system because the um, the building maintains temperature super well, but it is kind of like a nice peace of mind that the tank itself is actively temperature controlled in that way. So we will still probably have to wait a little bit before we start throwing in a whole bunch of corals in there. But we've started to, we have our biological media in there. We've got the protein skimmer all ready to go. I think at this point, equipment wise, we just have to put in a a controller just so we can monitor stuff, and we we probably need to start thinking about like the kalkwasser or a calcium reactor or something like that once we start to increase the bioload in there. But everything else is more or less done. Gotta ask you guys in the comments, have you ever messed with the control system that CoralView had come out with? I think I'm blanking on the name of their controller. The Hydros controller. They've been wanting to have me give it a try, and I think that originally I was telling them, it's like, when it comes to controllers, I am the worst when it comes to controllers because we have so many different controllers here that like our mental brain space is just completely overwhelmed because we have here Neptune, we have GHL, we have Alcatronic, and well, and all the other control stuff that's not even in the hobby, right? We have like other like industrial controllers, and then we have and so they're like, would you like to like give us an opportunity to try out the Hydros thing? And I'm like, I don't want to waste your time, but I might take them up on it to see. But I'm curious, like, have you guys tried the Hydros controller? Because I remember when I was at Reefapalooza, one of their guys, Connor, he gave like a quick demonstration, and it looked like it was like fairly easy to use. But yeah, when it comes to like controllers, boy, like we just suck at it. We suck at it so bad. Like that's kind of like why, as a channel, we focus so much more on just like on like animal husbandry, but not quite so much device focused. We kind of talk about devices generally, like controllers generally, like protein skimmers generally. Um, but yeah, because I think that there might be like a couple of things that we could do with another controller. But yeah, at some point it's just like I am in over my head, certainly. Let's see. Hillbilly Reefer, how do you attack Bryopsis? Um, what we do here is we physically remove it, and if it's really bad system wide, which it's never really been bad system wide, uh, one of the guys here is like a huge fan of like dosing the entire system with fluconazole, and yeah, we just dose it with fluconazole, and over time, it's usually like the last algae that dies, but it does die. I don't know if that's the best way to handle it, but it does work. It does work. Peter T. Hydros. Harkins likes his Hydros. Okay. Okay. Jay Hansen, how do you attack turf algae? So going back to the fluconazole, fluconazole does work on turf algae as well. It takes, again, longer. They're really tough. However, lately what we've been able to do is whenever we're able to dip something, we give it a quick bath in in a hydrogen peroxide solution. Look up the concentrations that you'll need. Hydrogen peroxide is mega aggressive, like mega aggressive, but it really kills algae. I was pretty surprised. Like a 30-second dip really knocked out a lot of turf algae for us. But I think that to do it like properly, it's more like a 5-minute dip, and we were dipping zoas that had some like red turf algae because we don't want that stuff to like grow out of control. And it's one of those things that comes in on cleanup crews more than anything. I think like we get a lot of Astrea snails from the Caribbean, and there's like a few different things that come on their shells. You can be as diligent as you want, but I mean, you're talking about microbial stuff. So eventually, what pops up, you'll get some turf algae. And lately, like whenever I see that, I'm like, hey guys, let's get this onto the to-do list calendar. But I want to get all these things dipped in hydrogen peroxide because I don't want to have that be like a long-term problem here. But yes, for algae, I want to find ways to do hydrogen peroxide in more places. Peter T, the X4 is great. It's so easy. There you go. You could do it with one hand behind your back. So like I think that it's the lack of attention that we're able to give to stuff. Because so I'll tell you like the friends of the friends tanks that I'm very familiar with that we've covered on my channel. So Ryan Reeves, he's the guy down in Texas with that really nice like 1,000-gallon aquarium that is, you know, that has like a stone facade and all that stuff. He runs that whole thing off of a GHL. He's got a couple other controllers, but the thing that does like the main heavy lifting is a GHL. My other friend Will, who's in town here in Akron, he has like that really nice Reef Savvy tank. It's a very low profile, also an in-wall thing. His controller, he uses Neptune. He has an Apex controller. And Nathan, who you've seen several times on this channel, his tank, he's got that new 9-footer. New, it's probably like 2 years old now, but it's a 9-foot long, really nice tank. He uses Alcatronic, and I think that he has like the Dosetronic and Mastertronic. So he's in that whole ecosystem of Alcatronic, and they are all super happy with how all that stuff performs. Me, it's like I have, like I said, all of them, right? But they're all barely hanging on. They're all like, they all need to be calibrated. They all like, I'm not getting like reliable results because of lack of attentiveness and calibration. Because guys, when you have a single aquarium, automation's wonderful, because if you just keep up on the maintenance of one controller, it does so much for you. When you have tens of systems, each that have their own controllers, it gets a lot more sketch. Suddenly, the maintenance of your automation becomes somebody's full-time job. And that means here, it doesn't really get done. So we've got like a couple of ORP probes that like they give me a number and I'm like, that's probably not quite right. We have salinity probes that I'm sure that's not quite right either. And so like when you just go down the probe list of like, okay, well, I'm not getting like reliable results because of calibration issues or whatever, because again, there's like tons of them. And again, this is just straight up user error. It's not like, oh, this is a bad tech. No, it doesn't work if you do it wrong. And we do it wrong consistently at scale. So at that point, it's like, just get the hydrometer out, check the salinity. Cool. All right, move on. What's the pH? I don't know. Check it with the pH probe that we actually have calibrated and go to every single tank and see. Cool. It's that type of thing. So that's why I say like we're terrible when it comes to evaluating controllers, because it becomes a clear user error problem of our own device. Your Alcatronic would even talk to the Hydros app. Yeah, so I think that the Alcatronic will report its data to both the Apex, and it's cool that it'll talk to the Hydros as well. I think it plugs into like the pH probe port, which is really, really cool. The problem is our Alcatronic has said some error now for about like 6 months, and we've never even tried to like fix it. Legit 6 months. The idea was that we would have our Neptune Trident give us readings for calcium, alkalinity, magnesium, and then we would have a backup test for alkalinity with the Alcatronic. Be like, cool, we have like two verifiable sources plus the a Hanna egg or a Salifert test or something like that to check on these figures if we wanted to do a hand test. In practice, what we just do is the hand test, because a lot of the automation stuff is just not giving us numbers, because in the case of the Alcatronic, it's straight up not running the test because there's an error code that we've just ignored. Yeah, you don't need to give it attention. You just need to set it and forget it. Yeah, we did. We just set it. We definitely forgot it. Then it messages if it needs you. Yeah, it did that too. Let's see. The ALK and Mastertronic all talk with Hydros. Cool. Salinity probes need the SPS from VCA. What is the SPS from VCA? I'm familiar with VCA. I just placed like a small order from them. But at the SPS, is that like a salinity probe store solution? Mastertronic and Alcatronic both test ALK. I'll have to talk to Nathan about that and see if he likes it, but this guy sucks. This guy sucks at that. All the controller stuff. But yeah, like I said though, for a home aquarium, it's great time savings, and it's really nice, especially if you travel a lot, to be able to pull up your phone and get all like this data. And it's like the peace of mind that if you're vacationing in Cancun or something like that, you can just be like, you know what, everything is fine back home. Everything is great. I'm getting good readings. That's like double verified and stuff like that. It's nice. Because I think a lot of people lately have been traveling quite a lot more because of the inability to travel for the last couple of years. I think everybody just got the heck up and out of here like come July. We noticed like this huge like drop off in like website viewership and everything like that. And I'm looking at like my social media, and literally like all of my friends are on a beach somewhere. So yes, if you're gonna do that, having like multiple controllers displaying some information for you like while you're on the road, it's kind of nice. Roy Maldonado, hi Than. Been wanting to buy coral from you since last year, but when I log on, it tells me that my email wasn't confirmed. I've never sent an email. You might want to check your spam folder. Sometimes it goes there. But if you would also just go ahead and email support@tidalgardens.com, if Ben sees it, he can manually confirm your account. But usually, there are some email platforms that are more aggressive about filtering out the automated emails. Like, I don't know what your email is, but I can tell you that like Yahoo, for example, really hates emails that originate from our mail server. So stuff like that. But yeah, just double check on the junk mail if it's been getting like sent there. Harkins, let me know if I need to come out and set you up on Hydros on the new system. That's hilarious, because like CoralView is also willing to also send out one of their guys to like set us up on Hydros. Yeah, I mean, I'll take a look. I feel bad because I haven't emailed them back. I've been really bad about email lately, just because like um, there's been a lot of activity here. Can't talk about it all, but it's been really 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 busy here, on just like collabs and stuff like that. So I need to tell them at least a yes or no answer on whether or not I'll even mess with hydros. Roy Maldonado, yes, it's Yahoo. Thanks, Yahoo. It is very likely that Yahoo is somehow aggressively filtering out that email. So go ahead and email us at support@tidalgardens.com. Tell them like the issue that you're having, and Ben will probably have to manually approve the account. Brad, how is Ozone working out, and would you still do it again? Yeah. Um, so this kind of goes back to the I can't really trust our ORP readings. Um, so it's actually kind of a little challenging to calibrate an ORP probe, it turns out. Kind of weird. But so we don't have it mess with turning it on and off ever. We just kind of know that for our system, like the happy place for it to operate is like fully maxed out for our volume and for our airflow and all that stuff. And that's kind of like something that I worked out with, the company Ozotech. That's kind of like worked out well for us. Now, um, we we have a system that is, I like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, that's struggling with low pH. And on that system, we turned off the ozone just temporarily to see if that has any effect. Because I've read online, and in practice, I don't know how much this really applies. That's why we're just testing it out. But ozone in solution is slightly acidic. So I don't know if that is playing a part into the low pH, because we've had low pH before we turned on ozone, but perhaps the low ozone or the low pH. We had low pH before the ozone. So we don't know if this new ozone source is exacerbating that low pH problem. It could be calcium reactor related, because when you use a calcium reactor, you are literally making an acidic solution inside a reactor, and then uh, you know adding that back into your system. So long term, it might be calcium reactor plus ozone plus lack of airflow. There could be a number of reasons why we're kind of, oh, hello, my bad. uh, we there's a number of things that could be causing the low pH, I guess. Yeah, it'd be nice if we didn't, I'll tell you that. Yeah, hillbilly reefer. So like the focus, it's like, unless I'm like dead on the camera, it's I turn into the predator. The lens that I have on there is actually my macro lens, and the macro lenses are notoriously garbage at focusing. Like, they hunt. So if I had like a regular lens design, it'd be super snappy, like right on me, nail focus every single time. But a macro lens, they're super sharp, but they're designed to shoot like a bug or a coral about 3 inches away from the lens, not what looks like 15 feet away. And so if I drift out of its like dead center line of sight, it's gonna like make me invisible. But yes, Brad, to answer your question, I'm very happy with ozone. I plan to use ozone on the next system. I just there's not really like a lot of ifs, ands, or buts about it. I just want to make sure that I get this pH issue resolved in my one system, because we had like the most amazing acropora growth in that system. It was like spectacular. Like the polyp extension was wonderful and everything, and then it just started to get all like pissed off looking. And I'm thinking, well, maybe we have pests. We dipped everything. Not a lot of pests really. Um, we prophylactically did some other stuff, but here's the thing about SPS. A lot of stuff that's going wrong might have happened months ago and is only now manifesting. So you might have like corrected all your issues, but it's still going to take months for your corrections to fully take hold. So I just wanted to like baseline simplify everything and just wait it out and see. Because like right now, several of them look wonderful. Several other of them really don't. And it's like maybe some goofiness happened, and you can't overlook the elephant in the room. There needs to be way higher pH in that system. So like we don't have to look very far. Like that's the problem. That is definitely enough to screw up your SPS, right? Having said that, some of our other coral in the system could not be happier. Like Goniopora have never looked this good before. Never looked this good. Certain other corals are super, super happy, but it really does come back down to like some of these stress events that have happened and that chronically low pH. So yeah, once we kind of like get that all situated, we'll be a lot more comfortable with like cranking up the ozone again and seeing how that goes. Because we weren't even like dialing in that much ozone to the point where it really wasn't even clearing the water that much. So yeah, we'll see. Oh boy. So quick. So what else is going on here that's interesting? We are looking at some chalices. It's one of those corals that we've been wanting to like build up our collection of. Um, it's one of those things where like I've we've done so much with chalices before that I have a hard time figuring out if we have that chalice or not. I think the only one that we've lost lately, we kind of had like one colony of it crash. It was like this really 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 cool like orange sherbet one, and luckily we had sold it to one of our other coral friends in the industry. So once like that gets propagated at their place, we can basically buy it back from them, which is good practice all around. But I think that in general, we have a whole bunch of different types of chalice, um, but it's one of those things where like I think that we could also stand to expand on that collection. Peter T, Jake Adams, I am the controller, Than. I ain't about that life. Yeah. Um, yeah. So speaking of Jake, uh, he just got back from Australia. We're planning on seeing each other at MACNA, and at the end of September, I'm going to be flying out to Colorado to see a friend for his for like a wedding celebration. And since I'm out in Colorado, I'll stop off in Denver to see his studio. So hopefully, because that's a hairy trip, because there's like multiple flights involved with tight windows. It's like we'll see. We'll see if I make it to the wedding celebration. We'll see if I make it to Reef Builders. Got to play that whole thing by ear. Hopefully I can, but oh, That trip also worries me because the friend that's having the wedding celebration, he is slightly like a professional level cyclist. And and I think as part of like the wedding celebration, he wants to like, let's do like a hike or a bike ride, with all the guests. And I'm sitting here like, I have gerbil level cardio right now. I am not in good shape. And I can only imagine how poorly this is going to go. For me to go into high altitude and hang out with these freaking professional athletes. Like when I say that he is like a pro level cyclist, he has Lance Armstrong on his phone. Like he's personal friends with Lance Armstrong. He knows like several Olympic team members for this type of stuff. Like he's running in that kind of crowd or cycling in that crowd. So this could go poorly. And I'm sure he's going to be like, well, we can get you an e-bike. And I'm like, how about an e-car? Why don't I drive alongside you guys in my car? But yeah, anyway. So that's what's going on in Colorado. So hopefully I won't have any like major like travel delays. Get to see my friend out there, not die on some mountain, and then hang out with Jake for a little bit. Okay. Jordan M. A Vortec MP10 for supplementary flow. Overkill in a 30-gallon nano? Probably. An MP10 is pretty strong. So, I mean, it might be just dialed down way low. It'll work, but you might be just over capacity. Also, I think everybody has a much better experience with like the MP series of pumps than I do. So Ecotech like sponsors this channel, but whenever I try an MP pump, something crazy happens that doesn't happen to anybody else, and the thing like fries itself. But everybody else seems to be like, oh no, it's fine. I'm like, okay. I'm glad that it's working out for you. But as far as sizing goes, Jordan, an MP10 might be a lot for a 30. Let's see. Hillbilly, did you watch the first episode of House of the Dragon? Yeah, I did. I was actually I was like texting back and forth with Becca. It's like, because I just got HBO Plus. And I was like, Dragon show good. So I actually have a bad taste in my mouth from like the last 4 seasons of Game of Thrones. Like everybody that complains about like season 8 of Game of Thrones. I had a problem with 5, 6, 7, and 8. I had a problem with all of those seasons. Like I thought the first 4 seasons was like some of the best TV I've ever seen, and then it just like went off the rails into like utter stupidity. So I can't get that excited about the first episode of House of the Dragon being good when Game of Thrones was good for 4 years before it like derailed. So yes, I quite enjoyed it. The other thing I quite enjoyed on HBO Plus, if you guys have that, is the Harley Quinn animated show. I was like laugh out loud crying at that. It was so funny. Very much an R-rated cartoon. I'm gonna throw that out there too. What do you think about the new KFC dip for euphilia? So that is like a blend of different antibiotics. I've never done it. I've never dipped any of the euphilia in antibiotics. Supposedly it works for some folks and not so well for others. I was just having this conversation with a coral wholesaler, and in his experience, like he's used what was it, Cipro, to kind of deal with some bacterial issues, and he definitely did not have great results. So yeah, unfortunately I can't give you any like personal anecdote on that, but it was always like interesting to me to like set up a bath, like a separate tank for 7 days, put all the euphilia in there, blast them, and after 7 days, just completely break that entire system down, and get those things back into the regular system. But it might help because I think that a lot of the issues that you feel you're having long term, it might be a bacterial thing. Um, Knock on wood, in general, in this new building, it's been okay. So I haven't had to do anything like that. Do we lose a head here or there? Yeah, but we're talking about like one head out of like 500. So it's not anything to panic about. Brad, love the Harley Quinn show. Started watching with my 12-year-old daughter. Big mistake. Yeah. 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 They kind of drop the F bomb like every other sentence. And it's like shockingly violent. And the the humor is mature, let's say that. But it is right up my alley. Like I can't I'm obviously not gonna like share any of the scenes with you guys, spoilers or not, but that is exactly my kind of humor. So big fan of the Harley Quinn show. And when is the next House of the Dragon show? I think it's tomorrow night, right? I'm looking forward to that. Let's see if they don't mess it up. It always comes down to writing. Like if the writing is good, it'll be fine. If the writing is like Game of Thrones 5, 6, 7, 8, it's not going to be good. Let's see. Harkins. I use iodine for dipping LPS. We use iodine as well. So iodine has some antibacterial capabilities. Very good. Sometimes when it comes to like brown jelly and stuff like that, it's a little bit too late to do anything with iodine. But you might have, it's like one of those like your mileage may vary in this hobby. Okay. So I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces in chat, but for the folks that are unfamiliar with this show, and if you're curious about like how to go about purchasing, if you go to tidalgardens.com/live, you can see all of these corals in thumbnail form. And there's also like an FAQ that kind of covers like shipping and things like that. So essentially, you want to be purchasing frequently on the show in order to get the corals. Just like having corals sitting in your shopping cart and waiting the full 2 hours to check out is going to go kind of poorly for you, because in order to actually reserve the coral, you have to complete the checkout process. So you might have like things just vanish from your cart. So that is like one tip. As far as shipping goes, it is a flat rate $29.99, but it is free for orders over $250. And once like you're all done shopping, we'll reach out and we'll schedule a time. Most everything will be going out Monday for delivery Tuesday. Any overflow will then obviously be later in the week. But if you require a special day in particular, you can just send us an email and we'll kind of like consolidate all your orders and ship it on that day. So that's kind of how it works. But yeah, it's basically like a little QVC for coral. And you can mix and match corals from the live show with corals on the site interchangeably. So if you see something in the what you see is what you get section, and you see like item number 109 that you like, this Rhodactis, they're all just individual items. Just throw it all together, check out. Ozzy Cologne. Hello. Hello, Ozzy. Quonk. Jumped in late. Hello from Maryland. Welcome. Glad you could make it. Yeah, I figured that like on these really, really nice weather weekends, it's gonna be a little bit lower traffic. Like honestly, I need to be getting on my lawnmower and I need to be clearing branches and stuff. I've been leaving so much undone. Like my yard right now is like ridiculously embarrassing, but I've just been like so busy doing other things, have not gotten to it. So I can fully appreciate how like everybody's just like out and about on these weekends. So, any experience with the razor bacteria to remove algae from rockwork? I don't know what that is, Jair. Let me do a quick search. Razor bacteria. Google, go. Razor bacteria remove algae. Oh, so okay, so it's a Brightwell product. Systematic cleaner for marine aquariums. I have no idea what this is. Complex marine systemic cleaning polymer product gently loosens. Okay. Do not know. No, when it comes to like my baseline feeling on a lot of whole tank treatments is whenever possible I try to avoid the hell out of them. Like I don't like to just to do like all in one type bottles of stuff, especially if I don't really know what's in them. And I gotten more like gun shy about that sort of stuff when it comes because the whole thing with that one company that was it was Vibrant, that was like I guess like misrepresenting what was actually in the bottle. That's kind of bad, you know. So yeah, not really into a lot of full tank treatments if I can at all avoid it. I would practically like rather remove the rock from the system and spray it all down with like hydrogen peroxide and put it back in, which is pretty intense. Razor is a polymer. Mm-hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Have you guys tried it? Do you like it? There's so many products these days. Like, when it comes to like trying all the different ones, like I hadn't even heard of this one. So yeah, you ahead of me on that. Also, random thought. When it comes to like how clean or how dirty a tank is, like right now, so the reason why I thought of that is like item number 117 here is a purple suspicularia. Um, we have been getting back into doing like a lot of heavy maintenance on our systems. And in the process, we're siphoning up like a lot of things like remitted snails that have accumulated on like the coralline algae and stuff like that. We've been removing piles of detritus. We've been doing lots more volume in terms of water changes, just getting stuff out. Essentially, we're using like the water as like a transport mechanism for detritus and all kinds of other stuff, right? So as our tanks are getting cleaner, I would say that overall things are improving nicely. But there's some corals that I think appreciate a dirtier tank. And I'm wondering like what is the healthy balance that we need to look for when it comes to managing like uh, just the accumulation of things like detritus and stuff like that. Because I was talking to another store and they have like a really nice show tank, and the guy said, we have like a 2 foot deep pile of like detritus that just settles in the back corner, and we don't even touch it because we're worried about it throwing off like the balance of this whole ecosystem. And that kind of got me thinking because you know we had like an explosion of remitted snails at one point, and now it's like I would say that we have like 5% of what we used to have, because of like we're getting our tanks that clean to the point that like filter feeders like that might not um, be able to like sexually reproduce and stuff anymore. And I was thinking like the tanks that had vermitid snails had clearer water, even though they were technically dirtier, because they're such they're good filter feeders. I don't like how I poke my fingers on them, but when you actually look at like your system like more holistically rather than like a laboratory experiment, like your laboratory clean tanks get dirtier 10 times faster than like a mature reef aquarium that that might have a little bit more like dirty elements um, like detritus, things like that. So yeah, it's been kind of an interesting like feeling out process as we're doing like more and more and more aggressive cleaning. It seems like really good on the surface, and I think, like I said, there's some certain positive benefits to doing that. But at the same time, I think that there's some corals that appreciate a little bit more nutrient and a little bit more access to like that what amounts to just crud, the availability of crud in the water. They don't do quite as well. So just like a little food for thought there. No, if I'm fading in and out, it's not intentional. It's just me being not directly in focus of the camera. So if I like lean back, I think it'll lose me. You'll just have to imagine my extremely expressive face. Jair Diggles, I recently brought my phosphate down from zero point 0.1 parts per million to 0.03 and noticed my fungia bubble and Ghani closed up. So, real quick question, did you do that with GFO or did you do that with something else? Because I think that one of the issues that we might be having in one of our systems is that we didn't even use that much GFO to try to reduce the phosphate. And the thing about about like GFO is it's hyper aggressive and it strips out way more than just phosphate. So I'm worried that like it bottomed out something else, and in doing so, that's like why you're seeing especially LPS start to struggle with that. Now, we don't know what that is though. Like if it did do that, I don't know what it is because it didn't show up in an ICP. A lot of things don't show up in an ICP though. Like the ICP tests for what it tests for. But if there is like, if there's something else, maybe it could be who knows what. But if the corals require it and you're stripping it out aggressively, because I mean GFO, it works in like an hour. Like people don't like realize just like how fast that stuff works. And sometimes people treat GFO like they treat activated carbon, where it's like you can't really overdose on it. No, with GFO you can absolutely overdose on it, and the overdose happens like immediately. It's possible that we might have done something, even though we didn't use a lot of GFO. It doesn't take a lot. So yeah, going from 0.1 to 0.03. Yeah, prepackaged GFO. Yeah, likely it has nothing to do with phosphate. We've kept corals in like 2 parts per million, not 0.2, 2 parts per million phosphate, and no issues whatsoever. Like I bet. So all of these live shows, right? We have been doing them monthly, give or take, for what, like 7 years now, something like that. You can go back, and I guarantee you couldn't pick out the time period where we were having like really off water chemistry. There were times where the phosphate, like I said, was a full 2 parts per million. There were times where the alkalinity was less than 3 DKH, and I guarantee you couldn't tell. You couldn't tell. The corals are highly adaptable, but I think that dropping your phosphate way down could mean that you've dropped something else down to absolute zero, and that's causing issues. Cypress Reefers, hello Than, cheers from Brussels. Welcome. Nice favies you have there. Thanks, we've been trying to collect more. Hard to find them in Europe. That is interesting. So Brussels, let me take a quick piece. Quick look here. Brussels, Belgium. Brussels to Amsterdam. Okay. So the reason why I think it's kind of interesting that you're not able to get it is because there is a gigantic coral seller. Like I think they're a wholesaler in the Netherlands, right next door to Belgium. And you border Germany also. And I know that there's some big time coral sellers in Germany. So I don't know if for some reason it's just not getting to you in Belgium, because you're literally bordered on like some places that have some serious activity. Like De Jong is in Netherlands, and white corals is in Germany. So yeah, that's weird. I would not have expected that because the EU has like pretty free trade in between, right? That's what I would have expected anyways. Harkins, I have corals in 6 parts per million phosphate. They don't care. Yeah, to me, phosphate is a huge nothing burger. Like, one of our guys here is like super concerned about phosphate. I think you'll do more harm than good trying to like chase phosphate numbers. Like, I absolutely do not care. I think there's a GFO that stops at 0.03. Can't remember if it's Two Little Fishies or someone else that made it. Yeah, again, it's the GFO that's again for phosphate. Don't care. I worry that the GFO is doing something else other than reducing phosphate. That's my biggest concern with that. Because there's certain things that are just like trace levels, and you don't want to be messing with stuff at those levels. I was having a conversation when it comes to like reef chemistry. It was with Francois from Elos, and like we were talking about ICP, where is it sometimes just too much information and it's just unhelpful? Because I think he was of the opinion that it's really not that helpful, and I'm kind of agreeing with him because we got some ICP results, and in one result, like our iodine was low, and one of our guys was like, "We want to add iodine," and I'm like, "Why don't we just do a water change instead?" We do a water change, our iodine's now too high, and with like one water change. Some of the things that show up on ICP are so volatile, and also the skill level of the technician doing the test matters a lot. It's not something that you just like put a sample in, hit a button, like it's like my coffee machine or something. It's not like that. There's quite a lot that goes into it, and one thing that I immediately noticed was because I've got like friends that do like analytical chemistry for like drug development, and whenever they see somebody just like operating a machine, like in the background, whenever like anyone's even talking about ICP, they could like pick out like 10 things that that person's doing wrong. It's like they're gonna get messed up results because they're doing this, and this wrong. I can tell you, just they're blurry in the background, and then this person's like, nah, because this person is in the business of trying to find a talented technician to do like $1 million plus, drug development projects. So it really isn't just like you hit a button, pump your fists, and like it's not like that at all. So yeah, I kind of, when it comes to making decision making based off of like those types of like those results, I'm less a fan of that. Like if you want to be proactive, just do a water change. Not even saying that like the batch to batch variations in salt and stuff is an issue, because that is definitely an issue. But I think you can make it profoundly worse by trying to tweak it with a specific additive, because the very next time you do a water change, you might be like way overshooting your targets. That's just my take on it. And I think that like Francois was arguing basically the same thing, where it's like sometimes it's too much information. It's too much information. You're way overthinking this sort of thing. So in general, I try to not chase like micro levels, but like the macro stuff I'll care about, like calcium, alkalinity, magnesium, salinity, and pH, right? That stuff I can care about. But once you start to talking to me about like the silicon level's high, I'm like, don't care. Super don't care. Harkin says, I don't like GFO. I use Blue Life USA scavenging resins. They only pull out just what you wanted to bind, like phosphates or nitrates. Interesting. I have not messed with those myself. Yeah, it's kind of like I don't know if it's the right analogy, but like the double-edged sword thing. Like you want to care, but you don't want to care that much. It's we always are looking for ways to improve what we do here, and sometimes in that pursuit, it just doesn't quite work out. And you had a good thing going, and now you done screwed it up. That does happen occasionally. So sometimes it is a matter of like, you know what, just settle down a sec. It'll be fine. No need to like, no need to overthink it. No need to go crazy on a new device. It's like things are just fine. Could it be better? Probably. It could be a lot worse if you screw up too much. So there's a lot of grass is greener on the other side sort of decision making that's kind of prevalent in the hobby. You want to avoid that if at all possible. It's not a good place to be. Okay, real quick. I'm going to say my thank yous and whatnot, because we're a little over halfway through. So real quick, corporate sponsors, guys. Thank you so much. Ecotech Marine. Thank you, CoralView. And thank you, Polyp Lab. I haven't talked a lot about feeding on this live stream yet, but feed your corals. They'll like it. Also, guys, the Patreon folks. Let's go. We have Big Lord Chi, Brandy Camp, Harkins, Jeremy Altman, Elaine Martinassi, Alan Jackson, Christopher Martin, Chuck Admire, Ernie Wallace, Greg Zimmerman, Jordan Marty, Keith Singer, Kyle Jameson, Lisa Clow, Matthew LeBrun, Michael Shelley, Puddle Aquatics, Rebecca Hall, Reef Infidel, Ram Erez, Sean Howie, Skylar Korn, Sue Hemmons, The Classroom Reef, Thomas Tarrant, Tim Garner, and lastly, Trevor Joseph Overbeck. And on the YouTube member side of things, we have Tampa Bay Aquaculture, Herb777, Keith Holland, Justin Harden, and 328 Reef. So thank you guys all very much for supporting Tidal Gardens. There was something else that I wanted to say, but I just like totally just lost it out of my little brain here. Jair Diggles, I guess I just shot myself in the foot by buying that Hannah PO4 checker. Should have just left well enough alone. Sometimes it be like that. I mean, sometimes like in that pursuit of like a better perfect, things can get kind of goofed up. Like I've been talking about how, oh, our acros are so upset, and then like I'm showing like the acros on screen here. They ain't that bad. They're, I mean, could they be better? Perhaps they have been better, but it's not the end of the world. And it's having some restraint and kind of like seeing how stuff plays out is really helpful, because like if I hadn't told you that I'm not the most happy with our Acropora collection, like on screen right here is like 153, right? Would you say that there's something really drastically wrong with that Acropora? Probably not. Like there's not that much room for improvement on some of these things, but having seen what it was like before, it's like, guys, I think we could do something. Yeah, but going back to the original thing about that from earlier in the stream, there is a big macro level problem. It is low pH, and it's like, and kind of like worrying about all the other possibilities. It's like irrelevant. It's like the house is burning down. Nobody cares about such and such little problem when the house is burning down. You have a pH of 7.4. That's the burning house, guys, right? And so like the phosphate thing, right? Why are we talking about phosphate at all? Why are we putting GF on the system at all? Like you have a horrific problem on the macro scale going on. Fix that first before you tweak any of the other silly side things, like the iodine, the silica levels. Stop with that. Your pH is 7.4. Fix that. You know, that sort of thing. Cypress reefers, De Jong rules is true, and white corals import a lot, yes, but very high-end 3-color Favies is difficult to find. Other vendors keep a more environmental friendly approach with aquacultured species. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, here I would say that the vast majority of the activity is still not aquaculture. Like there's a lot of coral farms here that still do a lot of active like import, or like, you know, working with wholesalers and stuff, and we work with like wholesalers as well, but we grow a lot here. We grow a lot here, but you know, like things like trachees and elegances and scolies, homophilia, like we don't make much of an attempt to do anything with that. So we do have like this active influx of like those types of corals to fill out our categories. But if there ever is like a full out like ban on import of wild stuff, which, you know, there's some people that speculate that it's coming sooner than people think, that, you know, there might not be any more wild caught stuff getting into America. We're gonna see who actually gets to stick around because of their commitment to aquaculture and stuff. So it's probably a good thing that like over in Belgium that you guys are like taking that approach, because it might not, like the party might stop, you know. It's certainly getting more and more difficult. I would say that the trend is more towards different geographies closing it off rather than making it more accessible. Like for example, I know that there's a lot of quotas in Australia for LPS, specifically like trachees and stuff like that, that are like done. They were done like weeks ago, and they're done until next year July. So from those geographies, there's no more trachees until next year July that should really be getting into any other countries. Like a lot of places are like up against their quota, but there's different geographies in Australia that do collecting, and they all get managed differently. It's kind of a whole thing. I'm not directly involved, so I don't know. I'm just repeating what I've heard. But my point is that it's going to be getting harder, not easier. And I think that the places that are more active in doing sustainable aquaculture will be more successful in that environment. Let's see. Matt Schuster, or Schuster Matt, in manufacturing, oftentimes using an inspection tool with too high of a resolution causes unnecessary adjustments to the process. Big facts. Yeah, it's pretty much the thing. It's just too much. And really, if you wanted to do something about it, do the obvious simple thing. Just do a water change. It's so easy. It'll fix so many problems. It'll make sure, most of the time, it'll make sure that you don't make another problem for yourself. Like it's almost like a protection against yourself. Like you are your own worst enemy. Just do this. It'll minimize the amount of damage that you can screw up. It's a water change, right? Kyle Jameson, hello. Port Wolf, yeah, scullies and meat corals will gain 2 digits. They are plenty expensive. I was talking to a wholesaler recently, and he was like, because we've known each other for a long time, and he's breaking down, like, he'll tell me exactly how much he pays for stuff. And he's just like he's telling me, Fan, in order for me to land a scully of any kind, it's 3 figures. Like, mainly because of collection rates going up, over in Australia, but also the transport costs have gone up astronomically, and there's a lot of transport delays and issues. So the losses are higher if there's a delay. So there's like some major problems with that whole thing. So you might just see some like regular like A and B grade scullies, not even like the really really fancy stuff, and all of that stuff is going to be expensive because just to get it here was expensive. Yeah, so we talked about that. Yeah, so like scullies and meat corals gaining a couple digits, not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, I was at Reefapalooza, and every single acanthophyllia I saw there was like $4,000 or something. It was expensive stuff. Yeah, Harkins, I just learned how to grow 2 scullies out of 1, but they're saying 4 years. Yeah, so okay, so at Macna, the guy from the UK, Jamie Craggs, will be there giving a talk, and I met him back in like 2018, 2019. Like really, really, really nice guy, and he's like on the cutting edge of doing all this coral spawning stuff. And a lot of them are now starting to do coral spawning with like large polyp stonies, and it's super exciting stuff. But boy, some of the stuff like they'll show like, oh, we've grown these really cool micromusas, and they're like this big, and it's like, yeah, these are colonies that we've grown now for 2 years, and they're like this big, and I'm just thinking, to get that to something that you could sell, and the losses that you would have to take up to that point, because let's say you start off with 1,000. I mean, I can imagine a scenario where by the time that you have sellable sizes, that 1,000 might be 100, and you've waited 5 years to sell like 100 corals. It could be, I'm just thinking here, it could be messed up. So yes, I'm super excited about like long-term culturing of LPS. At the same time, I'm like, that ain't happening tomorrow. It's a little bit further off. Okay, I've drank too much of this stuff. I need to go use the bathroom. And please chat amongst yourselves. I'll be right back. And I'm back. I am back. I had something that I wanted to say, but I can't remember. I just lost that train of thought once I started to do like the thank you list. Shoot. It'll come to me eventually, I'm sure. Oh man. So that's one of the things that I kind of struggle bus with a little is I tend to, because of the nature of this job, I don't get to appreciate all the stuff that's going super well. All I see are the problems because that's how we are successful here. I deal with like the problems that other people can't deal with here. But I do have to say that of all the corals on this show, this Platinum Halo one that we just saw could have been my favorite because it's developed like some of the most amazing color, and that color was developed recently. It had that like swirl pattern going on in the middle, as well as like some of the color variation on the skirt. So yeah, sometimes it is nice. Again, going back to that idea of just settling down a little bit, chill out, is to sit back and actually try to enjoy your tank for once. It's difficult to do, again, because of just like what we do here and what I'm supposed to be doing here. But yeah, because like I think since this stream started, all I've been doing is like complaining about like our pH issues and whatever else. But I'd say that 99% of everything is going pretty well. It's just that last little 1% that I'm like fixated on. So Brad, how soon can we pick up orders locally? You might be able to sneak in like a pickup date, like so Ben, by the way, handles all of that. So he'll schedule something with you. A little bit like mid to later in the week would probably be better for us because typically Mondays and Tuesdays are going to be pretty busy, but it could be as early as Tuesday. Let's see. Are you guys dosing Fido? No, we're not. It's something that I would like to play with in the future. I think it could help. I know that a lot of corals really like it. I was thinking at some point to try to grow our own, but that's just like another thing. A lot of what happens here, sometimes like more is just more, and it becomes as much a hassle as it is a benefit. So I was talking with talking shop with any number of people, and I was talking with Laura from the UK. She does like some coral farming out there, and as we were talking about Fido, and she just mentioned, like, you know what, don't farm, don't try to grow it yourself. Like, you can, it's super easy, but it is just another activity that, it's a whole thing just to do. But just buy the product. And so she recommends a product by Easy Reef. Like, they've got like some little phyto thing, and you just like squeeze up as much as you need. You mix it in water and you put it in your tank, and you're done. You put it back in the fridge. It's not a big deal. Like, don't worry about trying to, like, set up a culture and trying to make it sterile, and and feeding it different types of fertilizer, and then getting to rotifers and all. Just buy the squeeze tube. It's like toothpaste. Mix it, put it in your tank, you're done. So I might do that. I've actually quite enjoyed using like another Easy Reef product called Mastic. It was the only like pre-made stuff that copper band butterflies would occasionally try to eat. And if you know anything about copper bands, the number one thing is just to get them to eat something. So yeah, anything that can help in that regard, I'm all in for. So actually, corporate sponsor CoralView carries carries a lot of those Easy Reef products. So yeah, that's maybe something that I might play with. But currently, are we like dosing Fido? No, we're not. Plastipede, how are the Bergia nudibranch selling? I think they all sold out like within an hour. Well, I think that Luke only put up, how many did you put up? 50 or so. It's like we sell them in packs of 5, I think. We sell them in 5 packs, and I'm pretty sure all the packs sold out like really quickly. We had a tank that was just like full of Aptasia, and I think when it comes to farming Aptasia, somebody did the math on that. I think you need tens of thousands of Aptasia. Like the numbers, like the numbers of like your food crop to have it like sustainable, it's crazy high, because essentially these nudibranchs, they breed faster than the Aptasia do, so you'll always blow through like all of your Aptasia. We still have some Aptasia here, but I mean, I'm just trying to think of like how difficult it would be to go looking around to like harvest up all the Aptasia that we currently have, frag it to get tens of thousands of Aptasia, to then do another batch of nudibranchs. I never thought that it would be possible to be like, I don't think we have enough Aptasia here to do this long term. So to answer your question, they sold out really fast. I wonder if it's like a thing that we need to like actually actively focus to farm as much Aptasia as we do like anything else around here, which is crazy to think about. But we're actually low on Aptasia right now. Bizarro world, guys. Bizarro. Harkins, Easy Reef is nice. Yeah, I'm pretty impressed with it. It's like a product from Spain. I had talked to the owner over. I don't know if he's the owner. I talked to somebody over there, and I was like, yeah, it's like I'd like to buy some, and he's like, can we buy direct? He's like, sure. I didn't realize that they were in Spain, and so he's like, yeah, you just have to do this thing, this, and this for the FDA, and I'm like, huh. So then I start to read like the FDA guidelines on this stuff, and it's like, it is so involved. Even if you're talking about fish food to bring it in, all the different requirements that you need to do for a food and drug, So I was like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna go ahead and buy it from somebody else that's already imported it because I don't want to be federally on the hook for some of this stuff. It's like I'm like, and by the way, I don't need a whole lot. It's not like I'm bringing in warehouses of this stuff to sell to the public. I'm just using it for like store use type stuff here. Um, it's like, you know what? Why don't I go ahead and just pay double to have somebody else do this? Like I don't care, right? It's not that much. So unfortunately, like I don't think I'll be dabbling in that stuff. Like what one thing I think that we needed to do, like you have to affirm that you have a protocol in place to audit the company over in Spain, or the international manufacturer, so that it conforms to the requirements of the US FDA. So I'm like, I don't even know what those requirements are. And I definitely don't have any way of monitoring the manufacturing process that's going on in Spain for fish food. Not happening, right? Not happening at all. And I have to sign that I am going to be responsible for that. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? No, I'm good. I'm good. But it is so far I've only tried the one product, but Laura had said that their other product for Fido was quite good. The only real story I have with Fido is one time I had set up this like refrigerated dosing system out in the greenhouse, and it malfunctioned, and it basically dosed. It didn't really dose. It was more like the doser malfunctioned, and a siphon started, and it sucked an entire year's supply of phytoplankton into the tank, and so the entire water was like green. But I do remember like a lot of like the soft corals, they were triple the size that day. They were so big and so fat and so happy. So we really haven't like re-explored that at all, but there's certain corals that I think could certainly benefit from that. It's just a matter of then managing the like the nutrient issues after that, which in the grand scheme of things probably aren't that serious. I just want to again make sure that I'm not overdoing something, trying to make it better, and then screwing something else up when you already have a good thing going. Because like I said, 99% of everything here, great. I just have to be the one that thinks about the 1% all the time. So there's that. Scott Morrison. Hi, Dan. I hope you're well. Thank you. I have been. It's been a year or so since I caught one of your live streams, but I've missed them. I can say that. Oh, thanks very much. Yep, we're still here. Still here. Welcome back. Good thing. One of the guys just left today, so he's like saying, yeah, he's done. See you Monday. I'm like, yeah, have fun watching the Browns. That Browns preseason action. Let's see what else is going on. Oh, I remember what I was gonna say. We've been so focused lately on doing like capital improvement projects and building out infrastructure here, because I guess that's like my sweet spot. I'm really good at building systems, and I get very, very excited about the system aspect of this place. But that's one thing that we've been doing for like so long now that it's been like kind of like all consuming. And so one of my the places that like are that we do like some wholesale business with, I kind of just like I randomly texted the owner and asking a question about something like really specific, and he was just like, and we talked about that one topic, and then he was like, like last year by this time, you had spent X number of dollars. This year So like year to date, you've spent basically 1/10 of X. So he's like, are you still like buying coral like at all anymore? And it didn't even really occur to me how little that we've bought in terms of like livestock and stuff. Because it's not a thing where it's like, oh, we sworn off like wild caught imported coral. It has nothing to do with that. It's literally we were so focused on like building our tank systems. It's been about planning infrastructure. It's about doing HVAC stuff. It's about, like trying to get the plumber on the phone to like, hey, we need to do this like massive geothermal expansion. Why aren't we even talking about numbers for this? Like all this stuff, right? For a year. Lately, like we've been building this place for like 3+ years now, but just like I'm talking about the last phase of things that we're talking about and getting done with has taken up so much time and attention that we haven't been buying coral. And so finally, now that a lot of those bigger projects have wrapped up, it's finally to the point where we can start to look at coral acquisition again. And that's actually kind of like the fun part. Oh, now I remember what we were going to talk about. We were talking about import, like coral import, and about how like the prices of corals have gone up. I don't think people fully appreciate just how expensive some of this stuff is now. There was a coral that I saw at Reefapalooza in New York that one of our friends was selling at his booth, and it was a rainbow colored Homophilia bowerbanki. Okay, what used to be an acan bowerbanki, it's now Homophilia bowerbanki. Kind of like get a mental picture. Full rainbow colored, and his source over in Australia had a piece that might have been this big. Imagine like a big pear, right? Or a small slice of pizza. They were charging at the collector level $60,000 for that thing. Not shipped yet. That's going to be more fees and stuff like that. All that risk of transporting that thing, all on you still. If your flight gets delayed, too bad, hope it lives, sort of thing. But at the collector level, a super high-end LPS could be 60 grand. So he was trying to sell like a single polyp of it for I think between $1,000 to $2,000 for a polyp. Yeah, that is so wild, and I'm wondering that like as import tightens up, you're gonna see like some astronomical price increases on the stuff that's coming in from overseas. I think that the stuff that's sustainably aquacultured has like a better chance of like not stratospheric pricing, but when you're talking about a coral that starts off that expensive, it'll simply never be cheap here, right? Like you can't, like it's, yeah, everything's going to be four figures if it's like really 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 nice like that. So yeah, the future is going to be, if nothing else, really really interesting. Real Wiser Than wanted to know if you could explain how different morphs or colors of corals are created like zoas. Is it crossbreeding? Is it gathered from the wild? I've never understood this. Thanks. I don't really know, to be perfectly honest. It's one of those things that there's just always some genetic variation, and that and you just get different phenotypes being expressed. Some of it could be a matter of it could just be a matter of how it adapts to certain conditions. So certain corals are going to be more susceptible to that than others. Like things like certain chalices can change color pretty dramatically. Micromusa can do that. Acropora, obviously. But there's also some that stay very, very consistent in appearance regardless of like the conditions that you provide. They might grow slightly differently, but their colors still maintain. But I think really what it boils down to is just like the genetics are just different enough that you get like all these different expressions of color. There are so many different types of zoas. We were looking through our back catalog at one point, and there must have been 100 or so different color morphs that we used to have that we no longer do, that are straight up not in the industry anymore at all in any way, shape, or form. It's kind of sad because, like, I mean, just think about that. Like, there's 100 products in the Zoa category that we could be having that they're just gone. They're just gone. Like, that simply blows me away. That there's like that kind of thing possible. But yeah, I mean, there's Zoas, acros. There's some categories where there's practically like infinite variation. Yeah, Jordan, in 2052, we'll be using CRISPR gene editing to customize corals, or it's collapsed by then. Coin flip on that. Chris, what is your favorite Zoa color morph? Favorite Zoa. I like the Darth Mauls a lot. I like, what are they called? Armageddons? Are they like the ones that are like basically Darth Mauls? What's like the big polyps that are red and black splattered? Armageddons. No, not so much. I also like what's the dumb trade name? I like Vampire and Drag a lot. And there's some cool ones out there. Yeah, it's hard to pick like a favorite, but I'll tell you, I do like the larger polyp zoas a little bit more than I like the smaller polyp zoas. Like, what's a really good small polyp zoa? I'm blanking on it. I can see it in my mind's eye. It's heck are those things called? It's like a collection of like yellow. Oh, dude, this is why you need trade names, y'all. It's because it's like I can describe this thing to you. It does not matter because, yeah, it's like, oh, it's like yellow and blue and green and no. It needs the name for you to know what I'm talking about. What the is that thing called? Rastas, right? Yellow, blue, green ish, orangish. Yeah. See, this, guys, as much as you might hate on the stupid trade names, it comes in handy when you're trying to say like, what is your favorite? Rastas is a nice small polyp zoa. Yeah, let's see. The 24K zoa is crack and not many people have it. Nice, 24K zoa. Let me look up a picture of that. 24K zoa. Okay, we used to call those something different. Like I think they used to be called King Midas. Well, I look up 24K zoa and I literally don't see a single repeating picture. Like they're all different. Okay. Well, I'm looking here. Pikachu's look kind of cool. Murder Hornets. That's a good name. Let's see. Scrambled eggs are nice. Yes, I like scrambled eggs. Tea Wizard just got a 20-gallon cycled. What should I get? You know what? I would say that most corals are going to be pretty beginner friendly. There's only a few that I probably wouldn't recommend, but that is totally a subjective thing, like what moves you, because I guarantee what you like and what other people like, there's not going to be a ton of overlap. LA Laker polyps stay small on my tanks. Yep. LA Lakers, they used to be like our giveaway coral. And now like they're actually difficult to find. Let's see, LA Laker zoas. Do people have this for sale online? Few people here. Out of stock, out of stock, out of stock. Someplace has it in stock. A place I've never heard of. I think this place is stealing our photos. It's like, that photo there looks real familiar. Yep. That by the way, that happens a lot. People steal our photos. Let's see. There's a few people that have it in stock. Let's see. Alex, any tips on keeping clams? Funny you might mention that. I'm actually bad at keeping clams. I think I struggle with keeping clams because we usually keep them in the same systems that we keep corals in, because we're kind of a coral farm. Do the mental math on that, right? So we do dip corals periodically, and I have a feeling that like what's happening. Oh, by the way, we actually finished. Yay. So you guys get a little bit of overtime as I answer this last bit of questions. The corals get dipped, and I think that the residue of the dips eventually breaks down and kills the clams. Also, the way that we do maintenance, we do move stuff around occasionally, and I think that the clams are more likely to get their byssal gland or their foot damaged when stuff gets jostled. So I think those two things together might not be the best environment for clams here. Now, I met the guy from Clam Mania, John, and we only talked for like maybe 1 hour. We totally hit it off, and I was like asking him all this stuff about clams, right? So he breaks it down to it's very simple. Very clean water, very bright light, and make sure that there's just no pests. So like if you can handle those three things, you will have a really good smooth time with clams. But he said, like, for me, yes, you'll probably want to have like a separate system for them. And so I'm not gonna like, put the cart before the horse, but I think that is a system that I would like to look into trying, like to really design what it's like. Just sit down with John and be like, listen, what's like the perfect system imaginable for clams, and I'll try to build it, and I'll get some clams from you. But historically here, we haven't done clams as well as I would have liked for all those different reasons that I mentioned. But yeah, according to John, it really just comes down to like clean water, no pests, a lot of light. Note, food is not on that list. It's light. Because like once you get into like mature adult clams, they do not require food. It's like 1% of their diet is actually being digested. It really all comes down to lighting. Barry Goss Sr. I think that whatever happens, the fact that we all frag swap will keep our aquariums full of colorful animals. Hope so. I'm seeing a lot. Well, no, I see both aquaculture and wild caught stuff at these shows. Like I'm some kind of expert. I go to like a handful. For 8 years I didn't go to any shows. What am I talking about? What do I know? Let's see. Brad, thank you for all the videos on YouTube. They've been extremely helpful. You're welcome. Look forward to more videos. Honestly, love the honesty and lack of paranoia. I don't know if I lack paranoia, but yeah, I mean, I try to stay a little bit chill about that stuff, I guess. All right, guys. You guys got a little bit of overtime. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Once again, for the folks that are new to this, if you guys want to purchase corals, these guys will stay on the website till probably, I don't know, Wednesday-ish. So you do have like plenty of time to like peruse our existing inventory. You can go to tidalgardens.com/live and see pretty much thumbnails of everything that's remaining after this show. We will probably try to ship everything out like Monday, Tuesday, but if you need a special shipping date, feel free to email us. And if you have any like questions on how like shipping and everything like that works, check out the frequently asked questions thing. The link can be found at tidalgardens.com/live. So once again, guys, thank you for hanging out with me this sunny August day. We will not be, you won't be seeing me on a live in September, but we'll pick it right back up on October 1st. So that's the plan anyways. But I got a lot of, like I said, a lot of traveling going on in September, and I should have a lot of cool content to share with you guys. So anyways, we are super Dunsky. So take care. Bye, guys.